In recent days, I came to a new conclusion, and before we even continue with this, I'd like those who are going to see the title and start foaming at the mouth to sit back, hear what I have to say before you leave your comments, and at the very least, understand what is about to be conveyed before you. A lot of people react to us and go, "Oh my God, what do you mean?" Okay, so last year I spoke with a number of women. One in particular is, I guess, the inspiration for this title, Silo Dirk, and she was admitting that she became upset with talking with loads and loads of guys who she believed were just seeking to have sex with her, all this nonsense. And this is someone I met online who, if you go off of the basic logic of the idea that I only want to have sex with someone, and yet I'm going to, instead of getting a prostitute, talk to some woman that if I could actually do this with, it would take loads and loads and loads of more dollars to go see in this country that's halfway across the world. Just it didn't make sense with any level of practicality, and so she ended up amending her perspective on me by saying that, oh no, I don't believe you actually just are talking to me to have sex. I think you're just desperate, and that's why you're entertaining me, and da 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 da. But the more I thought about what she had to say, which again was rooted in this belief that a majority of males just want to have sex. Let me also clarify this. I do think there is a sizable amount of males that have an interest in doing it. Even guys who just want some companionship, but to suggest that a person or an individual just wants to throw you in bed and play hanky panky, and as a result, he's going to sit there and talk with you for weeks or months, or entertain you for some long period of time when he could have just bought somebody to do this in a day is absolute lunacy. But again, they're not here to think about anything logically. But the crux of my argument is that when you look at a lot of these relationship advice givers online, they try to tell you about, you need to have this bank account of whatever. You need to have just various materialistic things. And the more I thought about it, I said, if you wanted to, because really they're more generalizing of women than the comment this title could ever be. Um, Let me read what Brian says. He says, "I would never sleep with a prostitute. Although I got moral. Too many girls in this world for me to do that." Okay, but then why are you here? Oh man. So, anyways, continuing with what we were talking about, the people who wrote these various advice givers that were telling you that you need to um, appeal to women by doing this, that, and the other. You can actually evade all of those supposed things that you're supposed to do if you get with a prostitute. And also to clarify, um, let me see what this. Trek says it's ironic that men who want a committed relationship with females also with sex are condemned. Yeah, well that's the thing. A good chunk of the guys who frequent this channel, um, as far as the ones I've talked to that are oftentimes in this chat room, are not some depraved sex monsters looking to go. They actually, on many instances, have mentioned that they would like to get to know the person and interact with them and understand them before, actually make it happen. And when you have these prostitutes, again, not endorsing them fully, but at the very least, they're upfront with what they want. They'll say, "Hey, if you give me 150 every 2 hours, I'll go over your house and hang out with you all day." And again, that's not desirable, but it is much more. It's less time wasting because here's the thing: if you ask a lot of these guys how long and for how many years have you tried to appeal to women that you thought were good or decent, um, they'll say a number of years. And with prostitutes, you can get straight to the point of hanging out or anything further than that within a day or two. Brian says, "No, I can't lie. I was more interested in sex, but now that I'm more mature, I no longer think that way." Well, look, I'm not saying it's. Listen, we all on some bare level want a deeper connection with a person, the sex of which depending on our sexuality. The point I'm making you is that really neither of these results are desirable, but there are various pros that were brought up in regards to picking a prostitute over trying to have a long-term relationship with a woman that I couldn't argue against. I can't argue against the fact that a lot of us get sick and tired of spending, months or in even worse case years talking to various groups of various individual women and getting called entitled for not liking the way it turned out. And with prostitutes, you don't have to worry about that. You say hello to Envoy if I. Yeah, I didn't say hi to him already. Um, and really, what kills me is that you have a lot of people who want to keep living in this fantasy world. Like I mentioned before, that women like what they like. And because we live in this materialistic era, a lot of them really, really like money. So they won't be as picky about the guy who's going to pay them the price to do what the scenario is. Brian says, in some crazy scenario, if you were attracted to a prostitute, would you put that aside and pursue her? She would have to quit that line of work for me to give her any serious consideration. But even then, Brian, here's the point I'm making to you. You're talking about how they have all these diseases and things, but ask yourself, do you really believe that there are not loads of women who do not, identify as sex workers who've become diseased from various men they've been involved with romantically or sexually? Not even romantically, they just jump in bed together. I told you about the one that admitted to me that she had been with only one man in a long-term relationship and yet found herself in bed with three guys at different occasions, two of which basically walked down the street and he was like, they were like, hey, you look good. And she said, oh, you look good too. Hey, let's take our clothes off. All right. And then that ended up happening. So I hope the actual substance of what I'm saying is being interpreted. I know we're going to get a lot of comments where people just respond to the title. Envoy says, if anything, a prostitute is financially smarter than at least she is getting. Yeah. Again, neither of these circumstances is desirable, but there is a very positive thing that can come from involving yourself with people whose job it is to satisfy anyone who can meet their price, in that profession. Let's see what else is here. Where did VVS go? Yeah, I forgot VVS is taking care of his child. No amount of money can mask the shame of your night maiden. Well, I'm not disagreeing with that. What I am telling you is that would you rather, like you guys still, I don't think Brian's getting this. As I said before, neither circumstance is desirable, but would you rather experience something via paying the person versus waiting and waiting and waiting for someone to just choose to offer it to you? BVS says so much resources are wasted just to get free basic companionship. Yeah, and it's sad because I keep trying to explain. We don't live in an era. Where's this? I've been watching a lot regarding genders. Believe not, there is more now than two, only two. Okay, well, let me before Envoy goes into this thing of what he'd like me to discuss. Let me put it to you this way, because I think VVS is catching on to what I'm saying. Women who actually like guys, and I'm talking about a particular man, so someone that they actually give a damn about, they're going to accept what he is. So let's say they have a guy who is a fantastic artist, but he lives in, subsidized housing. She is going to say, you know what? I like this person. He's in an undesirable circumstance, but I'm going to stick with him and be by his side. That's what actual companionship is. I've had plenty of friends that I've called up and, complained about various things going on. They don't sit there and say, get over it and, oh, this is so unattractive and I don't want to hear this. They don't. And, this isn't something that's daily, but it's just a part of life that we all have these issues that people who like us and actually care about us accept about us. So again, when women like males that they find, they can find faults in, they're going to accept those faults and work around them. With prostitutes, if they find a way to get paid, they're going to accept those conditions to get paid. That's how it is with most jobs. There's always something you don't like, but you accept because the ends justify the means effectively. Um, so that's my point. And again, if you want basic companionship, you're not gonna sit there and debate, oh, how will people think of me if I pay a prostitute to come to my house and hang out with me? Because again, the ends justify the means. You're not going to sit there and debate whether you want basic companionship for 150 a day or a week versus waiting around and hoping year after year that someone happens to come around that is interested in you. It just won't work. O'Donohue says never had any kind of relationship. That is a common thing over here. And unfortunately, if you leave that comment in some circles, they begin to play the game of window into your soul and tell you all the problems they have with you. But ask yourself if you're O'Donohue and it's let's say you're not 22, you're 32. Are you going to sit there and say, well, I've had 14 or 15 years of going out and approaching and no one's reciprocated, and I can keep doing that and getting no results, and I can conclude that based on all these years of seeing no difference, or should I go out and pay for companionship? It doesn't even have to be sex. You just hang out and watch a movie or make out or something. Point is, these are circumstances that when you put them down together and you weigh what is good, what is bad, there is a risk involved with both. Okay, Envoy says, regarding my point above, do you think you would, on nonsense of there being more than two genders to go off? Possibly, if I know more about it, I have to go and look into the, what's causing people to have that viewpoint. Yes, O'Donohue, 2 years ago. We met on a dating website, and she turned out to be one of the most prolific gold diggers of the 21st century. And I'll leave that at that. I have not read the 5 steps, Dirk. VVS says I probably would, but I want genuine compassion. If I can't blame anyone for getting one. No, look, VVS, I get that. I'd want it as well. Yes, O'Donohue, I did, and that's why I call her that. But VVS, I would definitely want the same thing. And really, what needs to be understood is that there are people who, again, are in this cycle where they feel trapped. They feel as if no one's ever going to do it without financial incentives. So they're coming to the point where they say, "Screw it, let me pay this person." And I don't blame them for doing that. People, what needs to be understood is that when someone as a human gets tired of a circumstance that they feel is out of their control, which is how a person will interpret and or see you, they have a breaking point. And that breaking point isn't always beating somebody up or causing violence. It's dealing with people that you 2-3 years ago wouldn't have thought to ever deal with. All about the, okay, well, Envoy, look, as I said before, you don't have to have sex. You can just do other things. Okay, and then Mr. Justice says girlfriends act like prostitutes sometimes. Well, that's my thing. You guys, like, you're not. Here's the thing: you're still not getting. How do you know the woman that you meet off the street hasn't been with multiple guys, doesn't have any diseases? No, Envoy. I mean that you can have a like, again, beyond the sex point. You can start something without having sex. So make out, watch movies. I guess kind of like that. But again, but ask yourself this: do you really believe that any of these women that you talk with haven't done the exact same things except without being, compensated for it financially? Always says you don't know that the way to find out she used to go to clinic with her, but no, you don't know. No, all I'm saying is that like the argument against it is the assumption that people who don't act as escorts are magically clean and have nothing, that they've contracted from their own uh, sexual deviancy, which is actually a lot more hidden and discreet between people who don't get paid for it. So again, they're like basically with the prostitute, the whole thing with them is that it's very evident of what they are, even if you don't like it. And with a lot of these chicks, it's very hidden of what they are. And you might find out you don't like it. BVS says females I know have had before the 11th grade, so I don't know anything different. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I'm telling you that they're not clean. Like, erase this idea from your mind that people don't have sexual past. Um, and especially these women, you know that they're more likely to have partners than men, 10 times over in some cases. Um, so ask yourself how many of those guys they've been with sexually, and ask yourself how much smaller, how much bigger is that than your, run-of-the-mill prostitute. Envoy says, I think people's issue is this. We are made to believe society has a lot more than the average man. After all, it's their job. They get paid for it. I'm not disputing that. What I'm telling you is that with a lot of these women that are not prostitutes, they might have the same thing. Not to say they're all screwing everybody, but I'm trying to suggest to you they possibly come from a similar background, just shrouded in mystery. They're going to do a lot more. Shh, be very very quiet than a prostitute would. So I hope you guys are catching this. I have some stuff to do. I might stream later tonight. Who knows? But thank you for participating. And really, it's just food for thought. Actually, listen to the merit of my argument, and understand that even when you get in actual relationships, you end up spending loads and loads of dollars that you would have spent on the prostitute anyway. And that in actual interactions where the two people like each other, both try to make it as comfortable a scenario for the other person as possible. That's how you know these relationships are fake. If you have women that live in the hood with a guy and they both want to get out of the hood, you know what that means? Neither one of them is going to tax the other person so much. Taz says only difference. Yeah. So, like I said, I hope that the merit is listened to. Don't just go off the tongue and go, which it appears that's how people are doing this. But yeah, I'm glad Mr. Justice is getting what I'm saying. It's not all of them, but it is to they are a very useful tool in an era where it's become almost like catching a unicorn to get with someone long term or just to even start it up. So you have a higher chance of finding a four-leaf clover before you ever finding somebody that actually, gives a damn about you, of the opposite sex, if you're a male anyway. And we've seen that from all the people who come in here and comment. But again, that's not a shot at them. That's just how crappy things have gotten. What is the one more thing? I'm about to get off. Come on. You better type that with great speed. Come on, Envoy. You better type that. I'm trying to go. I gotta go. Want more than um. Well, from when I spoke to one, they stated their willingness to meet with the same guys over and over. So no, Envoy. Listen, this whole thing of wanting companionship, I understand that. What I'm telling you is that we're living in an era where I can actually give you examples where I've sat women down and proposed the exact same thing to them, and they refuse. And so when they turn themselves into these basic, um, you know, non what do you call it, non-evolving creatures, what difference is there from them and the person whose job it is to engage in these activities, especially when they don't believe in advancing themselves or yourself? No, I'm not. Well, I'm not saying it's all, as I've said for the umpteenth time. None of this. I'm not generalizing this group at all. What I am telling you is that the members of it, which are in line with what I want and what some other people want, this whole family thing, they're very few and in between. And when you do find one of them, they don't want you in a lot of cases. So I don't know what else to say other than think about it. Some food for thought. You want to do it, don't do it. If you get sick of how things are, try something else. It's what I've done. So thank you for watching. Have a good day.